Welcome everyone. Today we'll talk about how to increase your creativity. When we think about creativity, many people imagine it as this is mystical, almost the magical process that some are simply born with. But the truth is, creativity is not some unattainable gift reserved for a few geniuses. It is something anyone can cultivate. You see, creativity is not just about art or music, it is about problem solving, thinking outside the box, the coming up with innovative ideas in any field from business to cooking. And guess what? Our brains are wired to help us be more creative if you know how to work with them. Let's explore how creativity is influenced by our brain structure and chemistry, and then dive into some way to tap into this. First of all, we'll talk about how creativity works in the brain. The brain is complex, interconnected organ, and creativity does not just light up one area. It's actually a network of brain regions working together. You have probably heard of the left brain right brain concept, where the right side is the supposedly responsible for the creativity and the left brain is more analytical. That's fun idea, but the reality is a lot of more nuanced. Creativity involves a mix of both sides of the brain working in concert. One of the key areas involved in the creativity is the prefrontal cortex, located right behind your forehead. This part of the brain is like the conductor of your orchestra, helping to balance logical thought with abstract ideas. It is responsible for the planning, decision making, and controlling impulses. But here is a twist. When you are being super creative, especially when you are brainstorming or coming up with a new idea, the prefrontal cortex tends to dial down a bit. It's become less inhibited, allowing more fluid and free-flowing thought to emerge. This is why you might feel more creative than when you are relaxed or daydreaming. Another major player in the creativity game is the default mode network, that is DMN. This network kicked in when you are not focusing on the outside world, like when you are daydreaming or letting your mind wander. Ever notice how some of your best ideas come when you are taking a shower or drifting off to sleep? That's your DMN at work. It is your brain way of making connection between the ideas and seem unrelated, leading to those aha moments. On the flip side, we have the executive control network, ECN, which is all about the focus and critical thinking. You might think creativity is just about being loose and free flowing, but the ECN is a crucial refining and implementing creative idea. It's what helps you turn that wild idea into something practical or useful. The key to being truly creative is to find the right balance between DMN and ECN. Let the idea flow, but also be able to pull them back and make sense of them. Now let's talk about the chemistry for a second. Our brain runs on the chemical called neurotransmitters, and the dopamine is one of the big ones when it comes to the creativity. Dopamine is often referred as a feel-good neurotransmitter because it's released when you experience pleasure. But it also plays a big role in learning, motivating, and you guess what? Creativity. Higher level of dopamine are linked to increased creative thinking. That's why you might feel more creative when you are in a good mood or when you are doing something you enjoy. The dopamine levels are naturally higher in some people than others. Some research suggests that people with the naturally higher dopamine level in certain area of brain tend to be more creative. But don't worry, If that is not you, there are ways to boost your dopamine levels and in turn your creativity. Exercise, getting enough sleep, listening to music, and even spending time in nature have all been shown to increase dopamine. Okay, so now we know a bit about the brain areas and chemical involved in creativity. But how do we actually tap into this? How do we become more creative? One big thing is to embrace boredom. Sounds counterintuitive, right? But remember that default mode network I mentioned earlier, it light up when you are not creative, actively doing anything, which means that moment of boredom can actually be the perfect incubator for creative ideas. When you are constantly distracted by your phone or always on, your brain does not get the chance to wander. And without that wandering, you are missing out on the creative insight. So try giving yourself some boredom breaks. Go for a walk without your phone, sit in a quiet room, or just stare out the window for a while. Let your mind roam free. Another trick is to switch things up in your routine. Neuroscience tells us that novelty stimulates the release of dopamine that is linked to the creativity. Doing something new, whether it's taking a different route to work, trying a new hobby, or even rearranging your furniture, can give your brain the boost it needs to be think in new ways. When you break out of your regular routine, your brain starts making new connections, and that's when creativity can flourish. The meditation is another powerful tool for the boosting creativity. This might sound a little woohoo, but there is a solid science behind it. Meditation, especially mindfulness meditation, has been shown to increase the connectivity between the DMN and the ECN, those two networks we talked about earlier. This means that the meditation can help you balance free-flowing idea with the focused thinking, making it easier to come up with creative solutions. Even just a few minutes of meditation a day can have a big impact on over time. There is also a case to be made for a collaboration. The brain is a social organ, right? And interacting with the other can spark creativity in a ways that are hard to achieve alone. So neuroscience shows that when we collaborate with others, our brain engages in the something called neural coupling. This is when your brain waves sync up with the people you are talking to, allowing us to better understanding and build on each other idea. So if you are feeling stuck, try bouncing your idea off someone else. You might be surprised at where the conversation takes you. Another is, speaking of conversation, does not be afraid to engage in a divergent thinking. This is a fancy term for the brainstorming or coming up with a multiple solution to a problem. The key here is not censor yourself. The more idea you generate, even the one that seemingly silly or impractical, the more likely you are to stumble upon something truly innovative. Divergent thinking can be hard because our brains are wired to look for quick, efficient solutions. But creativity thrives on quality. Let your mind wander and don't be afraid to explore ideas that seem outside the box. Another essential piece of the creativity puzzle is learning to manage stress. Stress is a creativity killer. When you are stressed, your brain goes into survival mode, focusing on the immediate threats rather than long-term thinking. Chronic stress can shrink the prefrontal cortex, making it harder to think creatively. And that's why it's so important to find ways to distress, whether it's through exercise, spending time with loved ones, or practicing mindfulness. By reducing stress, you are giving your brain the space it needs to think creatively. One last thing, don't underestimate the power of sleep. Yes, you heard right. The sleep is when your brain processes and consolidates information from the day. It's also when the brain makes connection between the seemingly unrelated ideas. That's why you might go to bed stuck on the problem and wake up with the perfect solution. The science is clear, sleep is essential for creativity. So if you want to boost your creative thinking, make sure you are getting enough sleep. In the end, creativity is not just a gift, it's a skill. And like any skill, it can be honed and developed with practice. By understanding how your brain works and taking a step to nurture creativity, you can unlock new level of thinking and innovation in all areas of your life. Whether it's giving yourself time to daydream, trying something new, collaborating with others, or simply getting a good night's sleep. These all small changes can have a big impact on your creative potential. And the best part is, the more you practice, the easier it becomes. Creativity is not just something you have, it's something you do. So thank you for the watching and see you in the next video.